claim to try to seek to create a new India, this old idea of India is repugnant. Their conception of an Amrit Kal is premised on India belonging only to people of their faith. The India of 1971, the India of Ambedkar, Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, to whom Ishwar and Allah were but different names for the same Almighty. And Gandhiji, don't forget, was shot dead for defending the plural and peaceful idea of India. This appalls our ruling party. Petrified of the power of a united people, they have sought to divide us on communal lines. Why else would the ruling party on the campaign trail this year, last year in 24, launch a savage assault on our republic's religious pluralism? Addressing a rally in Rajasthan, the Prime Minister described Muslims as infiltrators and thundered that when the Congress party was last in power, it made Muslims the foremost recipient of India's resources. He declared that the Congress and its allies would snatch away the Hindu majority's hard-earned wealth and give it to Muslims, sparing not even the Mangal Sutras of their mothers and sisters, and adding that they would redistribute wealth to Muslims, described as those who have more children, and even promote Sharia law. Electoral politics aside, this disgraceful scaremongering about 200 million of his fellow citizens, all of whom he is constitutionally pledged to serve, was in keeping with the Hindu chauvinist doctrine the Prime Minister imbibed in his childhood and youth, and which he sadly reflects. And when the Prime Minister himself leads this reprehensible communal chorus, others, perhaps in a bid to ingratiate themselves with the powers that be, do not remain far behind, even in some cases, judges and some judges, who are supposed to be the custodians of our rule of law and equality before the law. All of you will be aware that during the recently concluded winter session of Parliament, a motion for the impeachment of a prominent High Court judge was sought to be introduced in both houses. Not only did this sworn defender of justice, upon whom it's incumbent to be fair and just, preside over a communal gathering, he went so far to say at that gathering that India should be run along the wishes of the majority community, and employed a loathsome expletive to refer to our Muslim fellow citizens. And this, mind you, is only the most flagrant instance of a sitting judge vilifying the minority community. Credo is what led Swami Vivekananda to argue that the strength of Hinduism is it not merely tolerated other faiths, it accepted them. That difference between acceptance and tolerance was central to the Hinduism that he preached and, of course, that Gandhiji followed. And I must say that this has made, in many ways, this spirit of inclusiveness and the idea of India possible. It made unity in diversity the most hallowed of modern India's self-defining slogans. In stark contrast, Hindutva-vadis envisioned and envision an India where Hindus alone are supreme and where Muslims and Christians can only live on the sufferance of the majority. On the other extreme of the spectrum of religious bigotry, of course, Muhammad Ali Jinnah capitalized on Muslim anxieties about this quest for a Hindu-only India, and intensifying his hate-mongering in the aftershock of the League's poor showing in the provincial elections of 1937, he sought to instill in Muslims a fear of being subjugated by a belligerent Hindu majority once the British departed. That's what led to the Lahore Resolution of 1940, officially demanding Pakistan, which after 45 had driven a decisive, irretrievable nail in the coffin of a united and undivided India. Little wonder then that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and most of his cabinet colleagues started out as young men in the local RSS shakha, swishing about in white shirts and khaki shorts and brandishing lathis as part of their paramilitary drills, all reflective of Hindutva's reverence for the fascist movements of pre-World War II Europe. So Hindutva, as I have argued, is not only un-Indian, it's un-Hindu. It flies in the face of the sprawling faiths. It's more a conglomerate of countless beliefs and ways of life and worship than a single sort of one God, one prayer book, one religion kind of concept. Hinduism, in fact, can seamlessly coexist with different religions, because it always has believed, as Swami Vivekananda so magnificently articulated, that ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti, that there is only one truth, there are very many different ways of seeing it. In fact, Swami Vivekananda loved reciting the Shiva Mahimna Stotram, which says, that just as many rivers flow, some straight, some winding, some down hills, some down valleys, but end up in the same sea, so also all ways of worship of all religions end up with the same divine. The Hindu might call it Brahman, somebody else may call it God, Jehovah, Allah, it didn't matter, it was all the same thing. That was the fundamental Hindu belief. You were not confined to describing yourself by your religion. You could be a socialist, you could be a libertarian, you could be whatever you wanted to be, a Congress Party member like Datta Naik, or a BJP member for that matter, and that individuality was what defined you politically, not your religion. And this is why the Constituent Assembly rejected, in a resounding affirmation of the idea of India I've described, separate electorates, weighted representation, reservations on the basis of religion. All these were proposed in the Constituent Assembly. This fundamental difference of opinion on whether religion should be the determinant of Indian nationhood and citizenship continues to haunt our politics. What is CAA but this question indeed? Our nationalist struggle, as you know, split on this question. It was by rejecting two extremist, exclusivist ideas that our founders enshrined in the Constitution, an all-inclusive secular idea of India, which fostered a civic nationalism as against an ethno-nationalism based on religion, language, culture, and ethnicity, ensuring thus that all those who call this land their home are equal citizens with equal rights, irrespective of those other differences. Emerging from an ancient civilization, united by a shared history, and sustained by pluralist democracy and the rule of law. Now, this land imposes no narrow conformities on its citizens. You can be many things and one thing. You can be a good Muslim, a good Keralite, a good Indian all at once. A good Christian, a good Goan, and a good Indian all at once. I actually, my years at the UN, part of them was spent dealing with first the crisis and then the civil war in the former Yugoslavia, where Freudians began to note the distinctions that arise out of the narcissism of minor differences, because all these Yugoslavs are busy killing each other, all descended from the same Slavic tribes that settled the Balkans in the 7th through 11th centuries AD. Now, that's the narcissism of minor differences. In India, we celebrate the commonality of major differences. To turn Michael Ignatieff's famous phrase on its head, we are a land of belonging rather than of blood. So one can argue the idea of India has to be that of a land, one land embracing many. It's the idea that a nation may accommodate, indeed celebrate, differences of caste, creed, color, culture, cuisine, conviction, costume, and custom, and still rally around a consensus. And that democratic consensus is around a simple principle. Let's not forget that the two-nation theory, that revolting idea which metamorphosed into Pakistan, was not endorsed by the Muslim League alone. Even the Hindu Mahasabha and the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh had long been arguing that Hindus and Muslims were two distinct nations with irreconcilable historical, religious, and cultural differences, making their coexistence in a united India impossible. Vinayak Savarkar, the father of Hindu nationalism, published his Essentials of Hindutva in 1923. M.S. Golwalkar published We or Our Nationhood Defined in 1939, just a year before he became Sarsanchalak of the RSS. To date, the RSS provides both the sheath of cultural nationalism to the nakedly communal sword of the BJP and the springboard into public life for numerous votaries of Hindu. And look at the memorial to the only ship we lost in that 71 war, the INS Kukri, which sank with all hands on board. Captain Mullah, in command of the ship, went down with the others. At this memorial, they've done something remarkable. They've listed the name of every single Jawan and sailor who died. And as the Kukri went down to its watery grave, you see every religion of India, every region of India represented there as a tangible testament, which brings tears to one's eyes and swells one's heart with pride that nobody has a monopoly on the idea of India, that everyone belonging to every faith in this wonderful country of ours has shed their blood and sacrificed their lives to preserve and protect our future.
एवढंच नाही तर जे लोक नास्तिक आहेत त्यासाठी त्यांनी खूप आकडेवारी दिली वेगवेगळ्या देशातली, त्यांचं प्रमाण किती आहे. आणि भारतामध्ये ते प्रमाण एका अहवालाच्या आधारे 3% आहे असं त्यांनी सांगितलंय. आणि म्हणून त्यांचा खूप असा एक आग्रह आहे की अशा नास्तिक लोकांनी मी नास्तिक कसा झालो याबद्दल लिहिलं पाहिजे, लोकांच्या समोर आणलं पाहिजे. तसं झालं तर धर्माच्या नावाखाली सर्वाधिक धर्मांध वृत्ती आपलं समाज जीवन नाचवण्याचं जे काम करतात त्यांना एक वेगळ्या प्रकारे छेद दिल्यासारखं होईल. त्यांना गप्प करण्यासाठी किंवा त्यांना शांत करण्यासाठी त्यांची धार ही बोथट करण्यासाठी ते फार उपयुक्त ठरेल असं त्यांचं म्हणणं आहे. आणि नास्तिक कोणालाही होता येत नाही. नास्तिक होणं हा एक वैचारिक प्रवास आहे. अशी कितीतरी वाक्य त्यांच्या ज्या लेखनातून आलेली आहेत ती अफलातून आहेत. म्हणजे प्रत्येक लेख जर काढला तर त्याच्यातून एक सुभाषित वजा, खरं तर सुभाषित म्हटलं की थोडं फ्लावरी लँग्वेज काहीतरी ग्लोरिफाय केलेलं असतं, थोडं वास्तवापासून भरकटलेलं असतं, असं अनेक वेळा जाणवतं. पण यांची अशी अनेक विधानं ही तुम्हाला उलट तुमच्या सभोवताली असलेलं सिंपल ट्रूथ की ज्याकडे आपलं फारसं लक्ष गेलेलं नाही ते क्रिस्टलाइज होऊन अतिशय नेमकेपणाने एक वाक्यात किंवा 2 वाक्यात 3 वाक्यात ते आणून ठेवतात. आणि मग कधीतरी सहज ते सांगून जातात की मला बौद्धिकतेपेक्षा शहाणपण जास्त महत्वाचं वाटतं. आणि बुद्धिमान माणसं, बुद्धिप्रामाण्यवादी माणसं शहाणी असतीलच असं नाही, या लाईनवर ते थोडं विवेचन करतात. आणि मग आपण पुन्हा एकदा जरा खडबडून झाले होतो.
Your very courageous, brave writers from Goa joined us. Damodar Mauzo took the lead, and Datta Naik was in the group. And when Datta Naik saw how so many from Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Maharashtra, so many states have come together to resist something, and I shall speak about that, what that thing was. He decided that he will give himself to this movement, Dakshina, and going south. And also because now 14 January Uttarayan comes, Dakshinayan is when the darkness increases, days are shorter and nights are longer. He said that he would give himself fully to this movement. And from that moment on, for several years, he was with the Dakshinayan writers in Nagpur, at the Varda Ashram, in Dandi, in Gujarat, at Pune, in Dharwad, wherever we met. And all that we were saying was, don't be afraid, have courage. And he took upon himself the responsibility of mobilizing, bringing together writers from Goa, form a group. And in fact, he invited all the writers from India who have courage, to Goa. And not very far from here, we had a march from Lohia to Ravindra Bhavan to Lohia Chowk. That goes to the story of independence of Goa. And Ravindra Bhavan, Ravindra who said that we should have a country where we don't have to look down, but where our heads can be held high in pride.
Our economic freedom in Goa, wherein because we enjoyed tax holidays, we enjoyed freedom to do business, but we did not possess political freedom. 1961 we got our political, 1962 we got our political freedom, but there I say that we lost economic freedom, which came to us in bits and pieces starting from 1991. Portugal also had economic freedom and did not get it until 1974, the political freedom. China got its economic freedom in 1979 when Deng Xiaoping began the journey into capitalism, and still yet to arrive at minimum requirement of a political freedom. But if we turn the clock back, Datta's family is in education also. A lot of Marathi schools owe their existence to his parental enterprise. And sometimes I wonder when we had to study Marathi this in the 19th century, and we learned it because Konkani was rather suppressed. So we had an exit into Marathi, and we learned it on hide and seek basis. But later on, after 1910 in Goa, Marathi schools were permitted with all the freedom that we received from the administrators. And that's how the Marathi schools came into existence, and we have reconnected with the geography of and patriotism of India. So in that era, so we are dancing between freedom, economic, political, and right now, sometimes you feel, is there an emergency, unwritten emergency or not, and but it is getting diluted. Which direction we are taking on the economic front and political front, that is a long debate that Datta and I will continue to have for years together, and may I wish him good years, so that when I meet him I can also say I get my good years. Datta from 70 to 80 and beyond. All the best and good health to you.
जो धार्मिक मूलतत्व आवाज पातळला आणि मन खंतीला पण हांव निराशावादी न्ही. I am eternal rational optimistic. आमचेर काळान एक जापसालदारकी दिल्या. डॉक्टर थरूर, डॉक्टर देवी, विनोद, अवधूतबाब, दोतोर देवपाळ. We have to safeguard plural, diverse mosaic of Indian culture. We have to ensure that fundamentalist forces ruling Delhi, Panji, Lucknow and Mumbai are dethroned. We have to create grand narration. This grand narration should be such that fundamentalist narration of Hindutva should look irrelevant and redundant. हा माझी भाषण माझे 3 आवडते ऑथर त्यांचे कोटेशन सांगून सोपयलो. Played technically correct cricket. I have always played with straight bat. I have never gone on back foot. I have always played front foot. माझे खाजगी, व्यावसायिक आणि सार्वजनिक जिणे हांवें हायेस्ट स्टँडर्ड ऑफ मॉरॅलिटी आपणायल्या. म्हजी जीण हांवें स्पॉटलेसली क्लीन दवरल्या. म्हज्या स्वभावान तुमकां बौद्धीक अहंकार, इंटलेक्च्युअल एरोगन्स दिसूं येता, पूण म्हज्या अंतरंगात, अंतर्मनात एक बौद्धीक नंबळाय आसा. ज्ञानाची मर्यादा आणि अज्ञानाचे सार्वभौमत्व हांव मानता. हांवें एके कडेन म्हणलां, जाका हांव गिन्यानाचो गर्भवास समजतालो ते म्हज्या अज्ञानाचें आकवारपण आशिल्लें हें म्हाका कळ्ळें. आनी अजाणीवपणान, I think Mark Twain said, if I don't remember who said it, I said it in the name of Mark Twain. He said, if you feel you are a hammer, you consider everybody as a nail. हांवें दिलें तशें धरलें की हांव तुती, आनी तुमी जाणा कितें, मारी सुटलो. खूब फाटी चुकलें. हांवें जांकां दुखयलें तांचे हांव मनाक काळजांतल्यान क्षमा मागता. म्हाका खूब त्रास दिले लोकांनी, खूब त्रास दिले. बकतशायो केल्यो, पुलीस कंप्लेनी केल्यो, टिका केली. ह्या सगळ्यांक हांव क्षमा करता. भारतीय संस्कृतीची 2 मूल्य, नमस्ते, नमस्कार करप आनी क्षमस्व मे. म्हणून एक वटेन कृतज्ञतायेन हांव कांय लोकांक नमस्कार करता, दुसरे वटेन तांची क्षमा मागता.